Welcome to Fantasy Focus. Today's podcast is presented by Geico. You can watch us every weekday, almost every weekday, at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN's Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube feeds, as well as the ESPN app. But you can watch and you can download Fantasy Focus wherever you get your podcast. Field, Matthew, and Kyle hanging out here. We got a lot to get to today. We'll start with the mea culpa. We are a little bit late. Obviously, those that are hanging out with us on a daily basis, either on YouTube, the ESPN Fantasy Facebook page, or Twitter, are aware of that. We're sorry. For those that listen to the audio podcast, you're like, what are you guys talking about, man? I'm just on my drive home. The show's supposed to go
on live at 11 a.m.
Okay,
It is 11:20. We're 20 minutes late. Yeah. So, Anyways, we digress. We'll give you the full hour.
Control. Yeah, we'll give you the full hour. Should be a good show. In today's show, we are going to update some news. We're going to have some ranking stock. We're going to talk about some players that have recently been at the top 10 at their position. But before we do that, Matthew, today's a very special day. You aware of what today is?
Yeah, it's the day we're late.
Well, besides that.
That date.
Right.
Yes, it is. I did not know this.
Okay.
Can I tell you? So I asked, Daniel told me on Monday that he was not going to be here today for the show. And
yes.
I said, oh, what's up? And he goes, I have a dentist appointment. He doesn't have a dentist appointment. I mean, maybe he does.
I think he does, right?
Does he actually? But it's his birthday today, right?
It's his birthday.
It's Daniel Dobbs' birthday. And you know what I'm doing, Field Yates? Again, people listening to the audio podcast aren't seeing this, and people that tuned in and waited around for 20 minutes for the live stream to start also probably bailed. But if somehow you're still watching this, I am wearing Happy Birthday to Daniel.
Aww.
Look at this. We've got cute little pictures of him as
He's so cute.
Look at him. Little cherub.
Yep.
I assume at Mama Dop sent these in.
Believe it or not, we actually had these on the server. I'm not kidding.
I believe it. I do believe that. I think she probably sent them in at one point. Anyway, what I was going to say is, so I am wearing a shirt. Can you see what my shirt says?
It says Suburban Legends for you, mama.
Yeah. So anyway, Suburban Legends is a ska band out of Orange County, California.
How about that?
It's a crappy band you've never heard of.
I was going to say, I thought it was like a bowling team, perhaps a rec league basketball team.
It's a semi-obscure ska band that I really like.
Okay.
I really enjoy. I've seen them in concert a number of times, especially when I lived out in L.A.
Are they like Jimmy Buffett?
They are not at all like Jimmy Buffett.
Okay.
They're a ska band. Anyway, I think they're terrific, but they're a crappy band you never heard of.
Gotcha.
So this is the best crappy band you've never heard of shirt that I could find that I wore in honor of Daniel. He would appreciate it. Daniel always wears, of course, shirts of bands that no one's ever heard of.
So I'm going to talk about Daniel in a second, but Kyle, just quick check here. Do you know what a ska band is?
Not a clue.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so I'm not the only person that doesn't understand that reference. What is a ska band?
Wait, so you guys have never heard this?
It's a word.
Yeah,
It's a form of music.
Okay, so ska's okay. Got it. I didn't know if ska stood for something.
No, a ska band is it's like they're a rock band or they're a country band. It's a form of music.
Gotcha. Okay, I was today years old when I figured that out.
Wow.
Let's talk about.
I can't believe that. How's that not a?
Originated in Jamaica in the late 1950s.
Okay.
So yeah, me and Field missed the boat a little bit on that one.
But I mean, ska is still around.
No. Yeah, I didn't know. Listen. You're much smarter than I am.
I want to poll right now. Do you know what ska music is? SKA.
Ska.
Yes or no? Just that simple.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of ska music?
Let's talk about Daniel for a second, though.
Yes.
I don't know exactly how old Daniel is. I think he's in his 30s, but I just got to tell you, coming to work every day with everybody here is a joy. And I think you see many of the characteristics that define Daniel, but you probably don't see them all because some of Daniel's responsibilities are behind the scenes, and a lot of what he does for the show is conducted in the hours we are not on live.
Correct.
I'm not sure there's a single person whose heart is larger than Daniel Dobbs. He is the most compassionate person I've ever met. He's so thoughtful. He is so selfless. He is constantly putting others before himself. He never lets things that could be dragging him down in a way that makes him or makes you feel like he is asking for sympathy. Now, we're all here for Daniel. We all support him. But Daniel somehow finds a way to keep plowing through, keep brightening up the day of others, Matthew. He is so positive, so energetic. He's an incredible person who's done amazing things. It really is. I mean, there are a few people I love more than Daniel Dopp.
Yeah, he is. And by the way, he would know what ska music is.
Of course he would. He probably knows.
Keith is texting me right now. He knows what ska music is.
Well,
It's
you guys are
unbelievable,
both
the two of
smart.
you.
Sorry, we're young.
So anyway, but you're not that young. Anyway, what I was going to say though is I agree with you 100% on Daniel. An incredible, incredibly self-aware and sweet and kind and supportive and non-judgmental and loving. He's just a brilliant, wonderful human being.
Yeah.
But he's also, by the way, he's really talented. Like, when we made him the host on the fantasy show that, I was going to do this dumb puppet show. And, the original suggestion was that I should have like a female sidekick or potentially an ex-NFL player and I said, no, I want Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, really, we're going to put Daniel on air? Daniel's got, full sleeve tattoos and, he's got a nose ring. He's got earrings, everything like that. Doesn't look like a typical ESPN personality. Certainly not 6 years ago. We've gotten a little looser over the years, but 6 years ago, certainly somebody that looked like him didn't really get on air at ESPN very often. And so, but I said yes, because just trust me. And I think a lot of people would agree. He makes the show.
He does.
And I can just tell you, as somebody that, we do a lot of goofy stuff on that show. He's never complained. He's never said, I don't want to do that. He's never said, we come up with some of the dumbest, craziest, weirdest, most embarrassing, goofy, sometimes cringy stuff for him to do.
Hey, Daniel, let's spray mustard on your nipples.
Okay.
Sounds
Exactly.
great. What kind? Dijon or honey?
Exactly. He's just like, should we do that again? Like, did we get that?
How many takes?
How many takes do we need? So he is just an incredible attitude, an incredible sort of can-do attitude. We've talked about this a lot, that, he served our country well, with honor. He was in the intelligence department for the Air Force, stationed in Hawaii for much of his service. But he spent 6 years in the Air Force. So I think people know that about Daniel, right? Mm-hmm. What I don't think people know about Daniel is that if you look Matthew Berry, love, hate, Daniel Dopp. I wrote an article about him a few years ago that tells a little bit more of his life story. But one thing that I don't know that people realize is that after getting out of the Air Force, he went to college. He went to college as an older guy, which I think takes some guts to do, right? And the other thing is that he started here at ESPN as an intern. He was like a 29-year-old intern,
right?
Which, by the way, not a lot of people at 29 years old would say, like, okay, I'll go be an intern somewhere, right? That I will, at this stage of my life, I'm still okay. I'm still willing to, take an entry-level job,
right?
Which he did. He was an intern, and then I think, and then they needed someone to help out on podcasts, so he took a 6-week temp job, out of the internship.
It's amazing,
and has continued to just work his way up the ladder here at ESPN. Obviously, he is an integral part of, obviously, this show and the fantasy show that we do over on ESPN Plus and the entire fantasy department field.
Yeah, he's been an amazing ad. He's just an amazing person. There are probably not enough words to adequately describe how all of us feel about Daniel. Just know that whatever you may think.
Kyle hates him. No, but I mean, you and I.
Kyle and him might be closer than anybody. Kyle and Daniel are.
I'm just trying to throw Kyle under the bus. I was just trying to do something fun.
You tried. But we love you, Daniel. We hope that you're enjoying the day besides the dentist appointment. Do whatever it is that brings you the most happiness. Perhaps you'll be at a house show tonight somewhere. Perhaps you'll be watching old clips of Barry Sanders running around defenders and scoring touchdowns. I don't know what you'll be doing, Daniel, but I hope that it's a wonderful, wonderful day.
Kyle, do you have anything you want to add? Because I did take a cheap
just
shot
a
there.
Pot shot at me, yeah.
Yeah, just a random.
So you want to defend your honor?
Stefania, but Stefania's not here, so you were the last man standing. Sorry,
I'm
dude.
never in this seat, and so far we've had a ska band reference that went right over my head.
Yes, sir.
We've had me thrown under the bus for one of my best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So this is where I don't know if I'm coming back to the seat, but I'm going to tweet out the article you wrote, the love-hate intro for Daniel to give his story. That was great, and Daniel's the man. Like, there's no two ways about it, and we can't overstate what he means to the show, to each one of us individually. He's just the best.
Well, if he were here, he would say, like, let's move on. Let's get
what he would say. He'd say, dude, Le'Veon Bell updates, right? Yeah, waving around, the little rodeo.
Around,
yep. All right. So
all right.
He'll do that, and we'll move forward.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell's release. We can do this quickly, Matthew. I mean, just Le'Veon Bell got released. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like headlines you wouldn't have expected in 2021, a year ago, right? Le'Veon Bell signed, subsequently released by the Ravens.
Honestly, I actually would argue that the headline you don't expect was Le'Veon Bell signed.
Yeah.
Hey, Le'Veon Bell released is absolutely a headline you expect.
Yeah, but does it mean anything or no? I'm not so sure it does, right?
The only thing to me,
it pares down the backfield a bit.
Right. It means a couple of things. Number one is it means that I think likely we see Latavius Murray this Sunday,
Agreed.
right?
Yep.
And I think Jamison Hensley tweeted this, but other people did that. Like they had players coming back from injury. They needed the roster space. They're hoping to re-sign Le'Veon Bell to their practice squad.
Oh, is that right?
See if, I saw that. They just needed a. But I think what this means is that Latavius Murray is likely back, and it does seem like that it feels like that Tyson Williams has passed Le'Veon Bell on the depth chart, at least for the, which makes sense, by the way. At least, there's potentially some upside with Williams later on down the road. He's a younger player than Le'Veon Bell, and so. It's going to be Devontae Freeman. It's going to be Latavius Murray, and I guess it's going to be Tyson Williams.
I think if I had to pick one, I think I'd pick Latavius Murray if I had to pick one. But like, my confidence wanes dramatically based off where it was. Like, I guess it was never that high, given the fact that they lost their top 3 running backs, but it certainly is not high right now.
No, I mean, Devontae Freeman's been okay last couple of weeks filling in, but like they're playing Chicago. It's a fine matchup. It's not a great one. It's not an awful one. You're just sort of like, you know what I mean? Like it's like this running back by committee. Again,
do I have to?
Right, exactly. It's a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is the running back you want on Baltimore. I mean, the guy in the backfield that's going to score the most points with the legs is Lamar Jackson. But let's talk about a running back that people actually do care about.
Which is Elijah Mitchell. Right. That's right. For the 49ers, who has been really good recently, he carried the ball 27 times on Monday night. Sounds like he has a finger issue. Specifically, he has a broken finger. He had surgery yesterday. Maybe it was yesterday, because they played on Monday night to fix this broken finger, Matthew. He has not yet been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Jaguars. I can't think of exactly who it was, but I feel like I recall a running back breaking his finger earlier on this year, and you're like, oh, man, he's going to be out for 4 weeks, and he played that Sunday. So, a guy breaking his finger and still playing that same week is not unforeseen. But I think in the meantime, it's worth having other 49ers running backs on your radar just in case.
I think Jeff Wilson Jr., who played, 22 snaps on Monday night. To me, he would be the next guy up. You might see some Trey Sermon. We'll see if Jermichael Hasty gets back in time. They hate Trey Sermon with a fiery passion.
I don't think I'm going to see. I don't expect him to play.
I don't know. I don't know what Trey Sermon did, but man, they hate him with a fiery passion.
Yeah, so I don't expect him. Yeah, but
Jeff Wilson Jr. would be the guy.
Yep.
Would be my expectation.
And if he's a starter, by the way, I'd probably have him as a top 20 play against the Jaguars.
If we knew Elijah Mitchell were out, sure, 1,000%. So absolutely worth seeing if he's available in your league and rostering him, especially if you have Elijah Mitchell and you've been counting on him. Again, it just sort of talks, it's one of those weird things that and Stefan, you'll get more into this tomorrow, but it's one of those things that's it sort of depends on the finger and the pain and can they hold the ball? Because I agree with you. There have been running backs that have broken one finger and then immediately played the following week. And then there's also remember when David Johnson hurt his thumb and he was out for the year?
I was going to say, Will Fuller. I feel like thumb's different, but say finger, Will Fuller's been out for what, a month, right?
Yeah.
With a broken finger, it sounds like, or maybe some sort of finger issue. So.
Right, and with a running back, obviously, it's more important. I mean, whatever. Russell Wilson just missed a month because of a finger. Yep. So it sort of depends on which finger and I assume pain management and what it is. But but I know Nick Wagner, who does a great job covering the 49ers for us, tweeting out yesterday that Kyle Shanahan said he was going to get surgery yesterday, and the hope was that he would still be available this Sunday against the Jaguars.
A couple more pieces of news tied to running backs. Damien Harris was limited at Patriots practice yesterday, sort of a walkthrough because they play on Thursday night. Because he's limited, that would imply he has not yet cleared concussion protocol, Matthew. If he does, it'll have to happen at some point before tomorrow. I think we know, though, that if he plays, concussions are different than a knee injury, right? If a guy is healthy enough to play with a knee injury, it doesn't necessarily mean that knee injury is behind him. But the NFL's concussion protocol, as we saw with Ramondre Stevenson, his backfield mate on Sunday, he cleared concussion protocol either late Saturday night or Sunday morning, and he was basically a full go. He had 27.4 fantasy points. So if Harris clears concussion protocol, we can reasonably expect that he will once again be the Patriots running back you'd prefer to start. He scored in 5 straight games prior to missing this past Sunday. We just think that Ramondre Stevenson will have a little bit of a role as well in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So this morning on the pre-show meeting, one of the things that Thirsty Kyle asked us is like, who's the hardest player for us to rank this week? And I gave him an answer. I assume you did as well.
I did.
But I texted him one. But I would say that my initial thought was this: the Patriots backfield. If Damien Harris is cleared, because I agree, Damien Harris was awesome up until suffering that concussion. But by the way, so was Ramondre Stevenson, and you can make the argument that Stevenson is the better running back for them just because he's a little bit more versatile. Again, I don't know that it's fair to say Damien Harris can't catch passes because he did somewhat in college, and I just feel like they haven't used him that way within New England. But they haven't used him that way in New England in a way that they have used Stevenson, and so does Stevenson give them more versatility? Stevenson, who looked so good in the preseason and obviously was awesome against the Browns on Sunday. If Damien Harris is active, do you feel really confident that Harris is the Patriots running back you want over Stevenson?
I still think he is. Yeah, I think there is somebody. He's such a good finisher for them. He was awesome, right? Like, this is a guy who's playing really well at a high level too, right? And I don't know, like, I feel like he was. It would be a really small sample size for Ramondre Stevenson to have gone in 2 weeks from a guy that, like, we weren't even sure if he was going to be active to playing a more dominant role in 10 days, or I guess 11 days with the Thursday Night Football game over a guy like Damien Harris.
Sure, but I mean, he was awesome, and I'm a little burned, Field, by the Bill Belichick, we think it's this guy, and then, then it becomes that guy, right? Just the Patriots running back by committee, trusting a running back, a Patriots running back. How many years have fantasy managers been burned by saying we think that's the guy, and then all of a sudden, Rex Burkhead gets 2 touchdowns.
I'll pretty confidently start Damien Harris if he's active tomorrow night. By the way, in that same game...
Would you still start... Then one last question then.
Deep league only, Ramondre Stevenson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a flex consideration for you.
Maybe, there's only 2 teams that buy this week, but they are 2 fantasy-relevant teams, and the Broncos have 2 running backs, and the Rams have 1, obviously, and Darrell Henderson, and obviously great wide receivers.
You could have some guys banged up. You're not sure about Elijah Mitchell.
Potential flex, but more like I think I'll have him like 30. I think I'll have him like 26 to 32, somewhere in that range amongst my running backs.
I think that sounds about right, but I don't know. I think this might be a little bit more of a split than we may have thought. I certainly don't think Brandon Bolden or J.J. Taylor.
I think Brandon Bolden will still play.
Yeah, he'll play, but a handful of snaps. Like, he won't play in any way that you would want to start him in fantasy.
Oh yeah, agreed on
that. There you go with that. By the way, quickly, same game.
Yeah.
Our own Michael Rothstein tweeted this out. Falcons head coach Arthur Smith said running back Cordero Patterson will be a game-time decision tomorrow night against New England. He has practiced all week. So
there's a
trending
chance
up for Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, we'll see. There's a chance at the very least. Obviously, there was that report suggesting he might miss multiple weeks, but we'll see whether he plays tomorrow night. Wayne Gallman, kind of an interesting ad yesterday. Like, it's hard to tell just how much those 15 carries mattered last week, or if they were mostly like, hey, we're getting mopped. Like, I still think Mike Davis would be the running back you're starting tomorrow night if Patterson misses.
Well, it's interesting. There was a report in the Athletic that basically quoted Arthur Smith as saying that they felt like, we're going to use that phrase, but basically, like, given the score,
protect our guys.
Given the score of the game, which was obviously got out of hand quickly, and the fact that they played again Thursday night, that they, Arthur Smith said that's why you saw a lot of Rose and you saw a lot of Gallman. Just basically, like, all right, ain't our day. Let's live to fight another day, especially with a running back. So my expectation is Patterson is ruled out. I would have Davis over Gallman.
Miles Sanders had his 21-day practice window open today. That means if the team does not activate him the next 21 days, he's out for the year. More likely, though, is that he's activated perhaps sooner rather than later. I think I saw the stat correctly. They actually lead the NFL in rushing since Miles Sanders got hurt. They've been very efficient. Obviously, that's been players like Boston Scott and also Jordan Howard and Jalen Hurts, obviously a big-time runner as well, but they've been an effective runner. Matthew, I think, though, once Miles Sanders is back, like, I could actually see this being one where the workload from Miles Sanders decreases a little bit. Like, the amount that we have seen from Jordan Howard, like, I think he'll be their goal line finisher. I think Boston Scott will play a pocket of snaps, and I think Kenneth Gainwell will still play some snaps as well. Because remember, Jordan Howard is now on the active roster. He's no longer a practice squad player that have to call up per week. So I do think when Miles Sanders comes back, his already depreciated value might be down even more. Do you agree or no?
Yeah, it's a real interesting one. So by the way, literally while you're talking, I just got an alert here. Okay. Josh Tolentino at JCT Sports, who's a Eagles reporter for the Philadelphia Inquirer, tweeting this from Nick Sirianni's press conference. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni has converted today's practice to a walkthrough. Sirianni non-committal on running back Miles Sanders' status for Sunday's game versus the Saints. He says team wants to see how Sanders looks on the field the next 2 days, but says, quote, if Miles Sanders is ready and healthy, he's our starter, end quote. Again, that's from at JCT Sports, Josh Tolentino, who covers the team for the Inquirer. It's an interesting one, Field, because I agree with you. Like, Jordan Howard has looked good. The weird part, though, is that prior to Miles Sanders' injury, they weren't going run heavy. Or if they were running when they were close, it was more Jalen Hurts when they got close than it was Miles Sanders. When Miles Sanders is put on IR, all of a sudden the Eagles go really run heavy. The last couple of games, they've gone very, very run heavy.
Well, keep in mind,
is that a result of like, hey, we finally got Miles Sanders? I
think
don't know
it's
what's going on. Okay,
part of it is that they have played more positive game scripts.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, that Detroit. Yeah, exactly.
Second of all, have you seen their schedule going forward?
Okay.
Very soft. Pudding soft going forward for the most part. Let me read it off to you. Pull it up. Because I think this could bode well for increased number of rushing attempts for Miles Sanders or anybody else here. Let's just pull up the Eagles real quick.
The other thing is that while you're looking that up, I will just say, I don't think Jordan Howard suddenly just goes away. Like, they've used other backs, even when Miles Sanders is healthy. Yep. And so, before it was like Kenneth Gainwell, and I think you'll still see a little bit of Gainwell, but I don't know that Jordan Howard suddenly just disappears. What do you got?
How about this? Just tell me when you get to an offense that scares you, that can blow them out. No, an offense that scares you, so that's like, Philly's down by 20. They can't run the ball.
Okay, got it. Offense.
Saints,
right?
Don't scare you.
Nope.
Giants, Jets,
nope.
Your Washington football team.
Nope.
Giants again.
Nope.
Your Washington football team.
Nope.
Week 18 against the Cowboys, which who knows? By that point, the Cowboys could have the division wrapped up, and they could have a clear edge on the number. Yeah, the 3 seed,
Cooper
right?
Rush, right?
Yeah. Pretty good
soft.
there for pretty good.
Yeah.
Philly could be very much in play for that 7th spot in the NFC, by the way.
Which would be crazy.
Or even the 6th spot. So anyways, I think one thing that's probably clear, though, is that if Miles Sanders is healthy, like, I don't know that all 4 of those guys dress on the same day. Like, it could be that Jordan Howard's inactive or Boston Scott's inactive. Gainwell seems to be kind of locked in.
Well, which one of them? I don't know the answer to this.
Jordan Howard would not play on special teams.
Exactly. So right, that would be the one thing, right? It's like, so they'd want at least one of their running backs to play on special teams.
I think that's a Boston Scott role.
That would be my guess. So then it's probably Boston Scott, Gainwell, and Howard might actually be a healthy scratch if Sanders is a go. So here's what I would say. If Sanders is active, I don't know that you feel good about any other Eagles running back.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I guess I would start Sanders probably as a flex. Like, I'm not a big Miles Sanders guy, as you know. I never have been.
Sure,
so far, I've been proven right on this. Their commitment to the run and the schedule certainly is in their favor.
Last one here, and then we'll do a live read and then some quarterback ranks discussions. But another one that I asked, does it matter? Maybe a little bit surprising. The Jets are going to start Joe Flacco on Sunday, Matthew, over Zach Wilson, who Rich Cimini, who broke this news, said he's not quite 100% yet.
Yep. And
it's a blitz-heavy D they're facing against the Miami Dolphins.
I mean, I think the Dolphins blitzed the Ravens. Everyone saw that Thursday night game last week. I think it was the blitz-heaviest game in the NFL this season.
I think it might have been specific to how they used their defensive backs blitzing, but it was a very blitz-heavy game, period.
It was a very blitz-heavy game, period. And certainly would expect them to use a similar approach against the Jets. And so that was one of the things that Rich noted when he broke the story, was that Flacco's experience, especially against a very blitz-heavy team, maybe came into play here. It's a weird one for me, just from an NFL standpoint. Like, Jets, it ain't your year. And I don't know if Mike White's part of your future or not. I know that Joe Flacco isn't. Right? You know what I mean? It just feels like, give Mike White some more experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Flacco may, quote, give you the better chance to win. But, like, how's Mike White going to learn? Like, you've got a 21-year-old quarterback in Zach Wilson. Mike White is, what, 24?
I believe he's 24, 25. He was in his, I think, third year of his rookie contract?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, like, he's not old either. Like, Mike White could be a very valuable backup for you.
Could be. Can I run one by you, though?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think the implications of this, like, really sort of nil for the Jets fantasy-wise. Like, I think the reason why they're going with him is I think they believe Joe Flacco can operate their offense at the highest of levels. I mean, the highest of levels amongst the quarterbacks they have that are healthy, right?
Sure.
And beyond that, like, it may not necessarily be about evaluating Joe Flacco as much as it is evaluating the other pieces around him. Like, we need Elijah Moore to get more valuable reps with an accomplished quarterback. We need Ali Vera Tucker, our first-round guard, to get more reps. We need all these pieces that are young and a part of our future, Michael Carter or Ty Johnson, reps with a quarterback that we think is a closer replication of what we want our quarterback play to look like.
I tweeted this out that listen, Joe Flacco, the same thing I said about Colt McCoy.
Okay.
Joe Flacco's a professional quarterback. Like, is he great? No. Is he winning you a Super Bowl? No. I mean, I know he did a long time ago, but whatever. In terms of the Jets, but he's a professional quarterback. To your point, he will run the offense. And I think this is, at worst, even news, and at best, good news for the Jets pass catchers that you care about, for the Corey Davises, for the Elijah Moores, for the Jamison Crowder, by the way. And for those that are watching on the live stream, you see the graphic on your screen right here that says the Dolphins allow the 7th most slot completions per game, which makes sense, by the way. You think about how strong the corners are for the Dolphins defense. So it makes sense that what you want to do is you want to attack the middle of the field. By the way, since week 4, Jamison Crowder tied for 3rd in terms of slot targets per game. He has more slot catches than all the other Jets combined. That's where he's going to play. I think this is a sneaky Jamison Crowder game, like a solid wide receiver 3 Jamison Crowder game against the Dolphins. Cole Beasley had a big game against them recently as well. Again, those corners are so good that that's where you're going to want to attack the field, and especially if he's under pressure, he's going to want to get rid of the ball quickly. I do think this hurts a little bit Michael Carter. I'm a little nervous about Michael Carter this week for a few reasons. Dolphins defense pretty good. Mike White was targeting running backs at like almost like a 40% target share. Not a 40%, but close, like somewhere in the 30s. Tevin Coleman back. Not that Tevin Coleman's great, but he's going to take enough snaps away that it's back to being a 3-headed monster between Ty Johnson, Michael Carter, and Tevin Coleman, whereas before it was just sort of a two-headed one where Carter was the lead. I still think Carter's, if you're starting a Jets running back, Carter's the guy you want, but this makes me nervous. It doesn't feel like a great week for him.
I actually think the most important part of this, and I don't know that it mattered which quarterback was starting, Dolphins defense, very interesting rest of season.
Sure.
If you believe in what they did this past Thursday night.
Yeah.
The Jets this week. Carolina next week, which we'll see. We'll see, Carolina with Cam, but still, that was a non-functioning offense prior to last week.
It's an offensive line that struggled. And listen, even Cam's dynamic, but Cam's not exactly,
right.
Like
We'll
Cam
see,
will make
right?
mistakes.
We'll see. Giants, week 13.
Right. Oh, yeah.
They have a bye in week 14.
Okay.
Jets again. Saints in week 15. Before they finish up with Tennessee, New England, which you don't love either of those, I don't think. But still, like, you can get through potentially the fantasy semis or fantasy finals almost, depending on when your league starts and finishes the playoffs.
And by the way,
available in over 50. They got added a bunch last night, but a really interesting ad right there.
Really interesting ad. And by the way, like, not only did they obviously play and dominate the Ravens, but the week before that, they hung tough with the Bills for about 3 quarters. Like, the Bills ultimately ended up, winning that game and, sort of handily. The offense didn't really do much, the Dolphins offense, but for like 3 quarters there, around 3 quarters of that Bills-Dolphins game, like, it was a slugfest. And Josh Allen and that offense was not doing much against the Dolphins for much of that game. So it feels like, listen, they've gotten those guys back healthy, and a defense that a lot of people liked coming into the season and then struggled. Seems like they're finally rounding into form a little bit, maybe similar to my Washington football team, which people loved coming to the season. They were brutal for a long time, but starting to play better last couple of weeks.
Let's before we talk about quarterback ranks, quick word for you, Matthew, from Geico, but keep the Dolphins defense on your radar.
Sorry. Usually Daniel does this, but it's his birthday. So happy birthday, Daniel, once again. I know the answer for this to Daniel. Do you own or rent your home?
He does.
Yes, he does. I bet it can be hard work for him. But you know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing as well because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Let's talk quarterback ranks for week 11. We don't necessarily need, some of these are going to be like, yeah, we agree. Good call right there. Sure. Jalen Hurts, number 6 on your board and 6 on my board. Matthew, 6 in the consensus ranks. A lot of us like Jalen Hurts this week. I think part of the pause, if there is one, would be the Saints defense, which is very good. Like, talk about a chemically imbalanced team right now. Saints are awesome on defense. They are not so good on offense. He's been a top 12 quarterback in 9 of 10 weeks, Matthew. Like, the upside's not the same as whether it's a Patrick Mahomes like last week or even a Josh Allen. But like, has there been a steadier quarterback? I don't think there's been. Is there been a better value amongst quarterbacks this year than Jalen Hurts? There hasn't been better value, right?
He was second place in my ride or die voting. It was going to either be Jalen Hurts or not. But on this very show, you asked me for a bold prediction. My bold prediction was Jalen Hurts finishes the year as the #1 quarterback in fantasy. He was on the preseason love list. I was higher than on him consensus. I got into a lot of fights on Twitter in the preseason of people like, he's inaccurate, he can't throw, blah, 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 all this stuff. And I'm just like, listen, guys, the rushing is there. We did a lot of stuff where we talked about, look at his last 4 games of his rookie season, compare him with the final 4 games of Lamar Jackson's rookie season. And then, of course, in 2019, the second year that Lamar Jackson was in the NFL, he won the MVP. And this is Jalen Hurts' second year of the NFL. And I don't think he's going to win the MVP, but he might win the fantasy MVP. He has more finishes as a top 10 fantasy quarterback this year than any other quarterback.
Yeah, he's been great.
More QB1 finishes than anyone else. He's been nothing short of fantastic. And by the way, to the eye test, I thought last week might have been his best game of the season.
Maybe of his career.
Yeah, in terms of how he played.
Yeah,
like, forgetting fantasy for a second, just like, you're like, okay, now it's not just rushing around and it's not just fantasy production. Now it's actual NFL production.
So I think the 3 candidates for best value amongst quarterbacks are he at 97th overall, Matthew Stafford at 95th overall, and then Brady, who's the highest scoring quarterback in fantasy, I believe still. And I think he was like quarterback 6 or 7 in terms of ADP. Those are 3 guys. Nothing you can't go wrong with any of those.
They're all really good. By the way, Kirk Cousins.
He's
Kirk
really
Cousins,
good. Yeah, really
Kirk Cousins, top 10 quarterback on a points per game basis, wasn't drafted in most leagues.
So you and I broke the news first on Monday. We broke the news, right, about Cam Newton starting for the Panthers this weekend. Right, it hasn't been confirmed, but we broke the news.
Exactly.
Just a reminder there.
Please credit the Fantasy Focus.
Yes, please do. And it sounds like Matt Rule said yesterday.
Journalists.
Yeah, just like, but I don't need like. I just need like a tiny corner of your picture that you use, like almost like in like illegible font.
Sure.
The tiny. It just says like HT Fantasy Focus just right there. You can't even read it, but that's all I'm asking for, right?
Fair enough. Yep.
Matt Rule said, sounds like, basically we're doing everything we can to prepare him to start on Sunday, Matthew. So I ask you, how high does he climb in your ranks for his presumed first start?
So I have him at 17. So I am slightly less optimistic than the consensus ranks, which I'm at 15. You have him at 13. So my concern here is that twofold.
Okay.
Number one is he limited in any way, in the sense that, like, he might be the starter.
Yep.
But is he going to know the entire playbook? Okay. Number two is that a lot of his fantasy production is going to come from his legs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they still have, I know this sounds weird to say, but could Christian McCaffrey vulture touchdowns from Cam Newton? I mean, like, right. I mean, that's the argument is either or, right? It's like, we always say, like, well, Christian McCaffrey, this is going to hurt him a little bit because Cam could vulture. Well, there's also a chance, by the way, that Christian McCaffrey scores 3 times. Yeah, I mean, like, he is the best running back in football, at least fantasy football, for a reason. And there's also the fact that he's playing a defense that's playing better, that's confident, that just shut down Tom Brady. And he's playing Ron Rivera. Mm-hmm. He's playing a guy that knows him as well as any coach in the league. Obviously, he played for him. And in fact, Ron Rivera was actually asked, hey, do you have a set of plays that you've kept in case you ever had to face Cam Newton? And he said, yes, I do. Mm-hmm. I mean, he watched Cam Newton in practice for 9 years, whatever it was, something like that.
Long time, yeah.
Long time. If there's anyone who knows, here's what Cam does well, and here's what Cam doesn't. Here's where we can, because he spent years trying to hide that from other defenses. Now he gets a chance to exploit it. So, given the fact that we don't, we expect him to start, but I don't know that he's going to know 100% of the playbook. Washington defense is playing better, and Ron Rivera is going to have a plan specifically to frustrate Cam Newton. I wish Chase Young were out there as well. That's a hurt, but still, it's still a defense that's been played better the last couple of weeks. I have Cam Newton at 17.
Same game, other side of the ball, and a different position is Antonio Gibson, who last week had 2 rushing touchdowns. Matthew very much looked the part. You guys are welcome for me putting the reverse hex on him. Congratulations. But I think what everybody's probably wondering, Matthew, is a couple things here. Is this a turning the corner opportunity for Antonio Gibson? And B, is this running game really going to be good enough? Or was last week just like one good random game?
Somewhere in between.
Okay.
So I'm at 21. You have him at 23. I'm slightly more optimistic, but both of us have him as a low-end RB2. Here's the concerns on Antonio Gibson.
Okay.
The passing game usage still isn't there, right? So
he got a little more work last week.
More weak, but not a ton, right?
Yep.
So is there going to be significant passing game usage? So that's a negative. And the other thing is, by the way, Carolina Panthers, pretty good. I mean, they're fourth best in the NFL against opposing running backs. They've been a good run defense for most of this year, and they've been good against other fantasy running backs in terms of limiting fantasy points. Again, top 5 in the NFL in terms of fewest fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs. The positives of Antonio Gibson looks to be finally healthy. The offensive line is a lot healthier. And I think game flow helps here. Like, I don't think even
not a blowout.
It's not going to be a blowout. That even if Cam's great, Cam's going to do it more with his legs than his arm. It's not going to be like all of a sudden they're down 21-0. If Carolina wins this game, they're going to grind it out. They're going to grind it out on the ground. It's going to be it's one of the lowest over-unders on the slate. So my guess is that the Washington football team is not all of a sudden down a couple of scores, and now they've got to throw a bunch, and now it's a bunch of J.D. McKissick. So I think he's going to be on the field a decent amount in what should be at least a positive or at least neutral game script for Washington.
Basically, the big thing here is still he has more than 20 receiving yards in one game this season, which was the game against Buffalo where he had that 73-yard long touchdown catch. So not as much receiving upside week to week as we had hoped for, but running backs, hard to find. Hopefully they found something there. And he is still getting good amount of goal line opportunities, right? Like, they're not going to the quarterback. They're not like it would in Carolina. They're not going to J.D. McKissick. They're not going to Jared Patterson. He should get the goal line work. Let's keep things moving here because we got a lot to get to.
And that's the other thing is that he will get that goal line work. And listen, he scored twice against the Buccaneers. And like, the Panthers are a good run defense. They ain't as good as the Buccaneers.
Last thing I'll say, by the way, I did not benefit off this past week, as I told you. Like, I did not start him in the War Room League, and thank God it didn't cost us. I would have really kicked myself. But I got a feeling, and I'm not trying to pander here.
Yeah, sure.
I think the confidence that Washington gained last week is going to carry them going forward at least a little bit. Like, I'm not going to say they're going to upset everybody that they play, but as I pull up their schedule in terms of defenses and teams that they are playing going forward, right? Like, their next 3 games all feel winnable to me. Carolina, Seattle, the Raiders. Raiders going this way, Seattle, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Carolina, like, they could build some momentum. I thought the Bucs defensive player comments about Taylor Heineke were interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if we get good Taylor Heineke for the next couple of weeks.
Listen, 11-6 the hard way. Let's do it, baby.
David Montgomery for the Bears.
11-6 the hard way. Here we go. Hail the Washington football team.
Here's why we're talking about David Montgomery. Is the last time we saw the Bears, they were playing on Monday Night Football going into their bye, and David Montgomery was activated after spending a month away because of that knee injury. And we thought, hey, there's no way they're going to play him a ton. Will they? And they did. We were reminded, Matt, like, he is their guy, and they love David Montgomery. He's a really good player, by the way. He's inside our top 17. Well, you have a 13 out of 17. You're pretty confident. I mean, this Ravens run defense, this Ravens defense in general, like, they're good. Don't get me wrong, but this is not like dominant, can't move the football at all against them defense.
So started it yesterday, and as soon as we're done with this podcast, I'm going to head back to my office, to my dungeon, turn on the computer, and you know what I'm doing? I'm writing love hate.
I was going to guess that.
And I got a little hint for you. Dave Montgomery making the hate list. Making the love list. Sorry, not the hate list. David Montgomery is making the love list this week. Again, to your point, I'm at 13. Consensus is 16. You have him at 17. Ravens are not that good against the run, by the way. I mean, I think they're more they are more reputation than actual production. They're bottom 12 in the NFL in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs here. To your point, the volume is going to be there. David Montgomery was the guy. This is a guy that before his injury was a top 14 fantasy running back. So the volume's there. It's a decent matchup. He's coming off the bye. I like David Montgomery as a high-end RB2 with a good chance of getting into the end zone.
I like the player a lot. Just good to see him back, and good to see how dedicated Chicago is to him as their go-to
And
back.
I think, just like you said, I think we'll see a good Taylor Heineke over the next couple of weeks. I think we're going to see a good Justin Fields over the next couple of weeks. I like the progress he's made the last couple of weeks. I like him coming out of the bye. 2 weeks to sort of try to fix everything. They have David Montgomery back. They're getting healthier. They're involving Cole Kmet more in that passing offense, which I like as well. I think you'll see Justin Fields come out of this bye and be a lot better than what we've seen for much of the season in his starts.
Last David Montgomery note is on Fantasy Football Now this past week. Mike Clay, we were highlighting players that have advantageous or disadvantageous schedules for the rest of the season, and specifically in the playoffs. And there were a couple of players that were cause for concern. One that was a cause for excitement was David Montgomery. Remember how last year he absolutely dominated
Crushed.
down the stretch?
Yes.
Mike's schedule forecast was very favorable for David Montgomery, so we could see a big second half of the season. We'll come back and talk about wide receivers and other pass catchers in just a second. But first, this episode is brought to you by Captain Morgan. NFL fans know as the season gets underway, you got to have the right players for all 60 minutes to bring that spark. And sometimes you got to sub someone in to switch things up. Same thing goes for that drink in your hand on game day. So if you're looking to sub in something more refreshing, pour yourself a delicious, crisp Captain Morgan Original Spiced Rum and Ginger. Sub in the Captain. Captain Morgan, the official spice rum of the NFL. Visit CaptainMorgan.com to find Captain near you. Drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Rum Co., New York, New York. We're back, and let's talk pass catchers, Matthew. And we keep talking about it. We keep talking about it. Mike Williams, right, who goes from good to bad and good to bad. He kind of reminds me of me on the golf course on occasion. Like, I can go up there, like, you might see my tee shot and be like, oh, Field can play golf. And then you'll see my second shot, and you'll be like, Field should retire from golf, right? Like,
I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's not pretty. It's rarely consistent. And it feels like these days, Mike Williams, not consistent. Yeah. I have him at 26 in my pass catcher ranks, my wide receiver ranks. You have him in 29. Matchup that doesn't necessarily... It's not that vaunted against Pittsburgh. Mike has told us how this Pittsburgh Steelers cornerback group is not one that you should be fearing.
And Minka might not play in this one.
It sounds like Minka Fitzpatrick could be unavailable because he's on the COVID-19 list. I don't know, Matthew. Like, I have him at 26. I feel like I've been sort of throwing him in the penalty box right now. Like, I can't banish him from my ranks entirely, but there seems to be just as strong of a likelihood as he finishes 46 as he does 16.
The offense... The whole offense feels weird. The Chargers offense, which was so hot at the beginning of the year, feels like has really kind of
inconsistent,
slowed down. Justin Herbert hasn't been huge either as well. Last 3 weeks, Mike Williams has been targeted on 15.8% of his routes. Prior to that, almost 29% of his routes. So basically half. For some reason, the last 3 weeks, he is getting half the targets per route that he was in the previous part of the year. And so I don't have an explanation for that, but, you know, at some point you got to go, like, it is what it is at this point. So, you know what I mean? We use this phrase a lot, but I think it's very appropriate here with Mike Williams, which is he is a boomer bust wide receiver 3.
Yeah. Tyler Lockett's kind of the same way, but there's never been a stronger case for, rather than us ranking players at each position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way down to 50, is just categorizing them, right? Like, if you have Devontae Adams, I may have him ahead of Tyreek Hill this week, but the point is that if I have either of them, I'm starting them without any question whatsoever, right? If I have Tyler Lockett, like, I have him at 21 this week, Matthew. You have him at actually 21 as well. So is it possible that Tyler Lockett's the 21st highest scoring wide receiver this week? Yeah, but really what that's doing is that, like, I'm accounting for the possibility he could be 1 or it could be 91, right?
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett is, if you need a big day, do it. If your team is really strong elsewhere and you feel like you're playing against an opponent that, like, is solid but not spectacular, and you're looking for 10 points and you have Tyler Lockett and Jacoby Myers for your flex spots, I might tell you, play Jacoby Myers this week as an example.
Jacoby Myers is much more of a floor player, and Tyler Lockett is much more risk reward. I ranked him at 21, and maybe this is me being foolish. I don't see Russell Wilson having 2 bad games in a row.
I don't either. But I also was like, I don't think Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers will struggle last week, and both of them did.
Both of them did.
Man.
I guess I just trust in, like, they're back at home, so the game's in Seattle. He'll have the whole week practicing with the finger. The fact is, it's not like they're ignoring Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett, I think this was John Paulson that tweeted this out, which I thought was like, he's like, man, Tyler Lockett is crushing for me in my air yards league. You know what I mean? I mean, right? You know what I mean? Which is like,
totally.
Exactly. Like, I mean, they took a lot of shots to Tyler Lockett. They just didn't connect. Russell was off. Like, that's about as bad a game as I've ever seen Russell Wilson play.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty.
Right? It was brutal. And he's aware of that.
Yep.
Russell Wilson is a guy that takes great pride in himself and in playing at the highest level. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to sit there and like, what are you going to do? Like, trust me, like, he's just like, you know, double film sessions and,
Sure.
and whatever, fire up the cryogenic freezer. Like, I got to do double sessions or whatever it is Russell does. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm just betting on the player there that he's not going to have 2 bad weeks in a row, especially not in what should be. I mean, we'll see if Kyler Murray comes back, but if Kyler Murray comes back, it should be a high scoring game. Like, he's going to want to compete with Kyler Murray, you know? And so anyway, it's more of a gut call than anything else. But the fact is they are taking shots to Tyler Lockett, and they just haven't connected. And I think this week they do against the Arizona Cardinals.
One more here is Devontae Smith for the Eagles, who played really well last week. He had 2 touchdowns on his 23rd birthday. I've got him at 27 on my board. You've got him at 33. Does make me a little bit nervous, though, Matthew, because they play a really, really outstanding defense in the Saints. And also, like, one thing that we have to train and remind our brains of, and this applies to everything in the league, not just fantasy football, is that, like, you know how, like, a lot of our network will do, who's the MVP after week 6? And then it's like week 7. It's like, did the person who was previously MVP lose the MVP award? And then by week 8, it's like, is that person back? It's like, hold on. It's a long year, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can't overreact too much to one thing or the other.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
ESPN has a lot of hours to fill. I'll just leave it at that.
Of course. But we don't want to overreact. I don't want to overreact too much to last week. It was great that he had two touchdowns on 4 catches, right? Like, that's also hard to do. Half your catches going for a touchdown is hard to do, right? Could he have a top 20 week? Of course he could. He's really freaking talented. But it's also possible that Devontae Smith, who over this season's had 2 really great games, and he's had 7 not so great, like, 7 okay games, like, maybe that's more reflective of what you're going to get on occasion.
But if for those that aren't watching at home or aren't watching the screen, there's a graphic now up on the screen that says over the last 2 weeks, Devontae Smith is the #1 wide receiver in fantasy. So it's not just the big game last week. It's he's played well the last 2 weeks as well. 9 for 182 and 3 touchdowns.
Yep,
so good. You get 4 catches in one game, you get 5 in another.
Yep.
And so the target share is there again, and those are in games in which the Eagles were fairly run heavy. And so I don't think they're going to be able to be run heavy against the Saints. The Saints are as good a run defense as there is in the NFL.
Yep.
Like, we agree on that. So the way the Eagles are going to be able to move the ball in this game is through the air. And by the way, there's a chance no Dallas Goedert either. So Devontae Smith, who already leads the team in target share and has a significant one, north of 25%, there's a chance that it's even bigger. And they also move Smith around so much that there's a chance that I don't think he will be shadowed by Marshawn Lattimore. Okay. I guess my point is because they move him around a lot. Yeah. They move him all over the formation. He'll see some Lattimore, but I don't expect him to see all Lattimore. And so I think Devontae Smith has a shot. Listen, is there risk? There is, because, again, he has been inconsistent so far this year. Jalen Hurts as an NFL quarterback has been inconsistent this year. The Saints are a very good defense. But yeah, I'm willing to bet on the talent versus against it.
Let's rank these 5 players, and we'll call them flex-ish players. I think one of these guys clearly is not a flex consideration. Yep. So I'll start, Matt. It's David Montgomery first, right? I mean, David Montgomery, #1 overall here. He has been so busy for the Bears, even when he's coming off of an injury. Good player. Matchup doesn't scare you. Opportunity for 20 to 25 total touches. Opportunity for 5 catches. Opportunity for a touchdown. The ascension of Justin Fields. All those reasons add up to him being the #1 player on this board out of the 5. Remaining options are Tyler Lockett, Antonio Gibson, Devontae Smith, and Mike Williams. Who will be #2 for you?
I'm going to go with Antonio Gibson just because of the guaranteed touches.
Yep, I feel the same way. Good opportunity to see, again, maybe 15, maybe 8. I don't think 25, but 15 to 18 for Antonio Gibson, a game that we think they'll be competitive in. And where I think it's really interesting here is these next 3. And again, rankings just off wide receivers where we had him. Yep. Lockett 1. I had Mike Williams 2. Devontae Smith 3. And I'm going to keep Tyler Lockett there at #3.
Yep.
Because you talked about it, maybe it's sort of a gut call, and I get it. Like, Tyler Lockett, he really could give you 5.2 points on Sunday, and you should not be surprised. But the opportunity for so much more is too tantalizing. I got him at 3. How about you for #4?
I would go with Mike Williams.
Okay.
I think I would go with Mike Williams. Again, it's just who's got a better shot at a touchdown?
Probably
Mike Williams. Mike Williams he's got the better matchup, and he's got the better chance at a touchdown. It's very boom or bust.
Yep.
It's close with him and Devontae Smith. I just talked up Devontae Smith, but yeah,
#5.
Go with him at #5.
All pretty good options, though. I know it's been frustrating with Mike Williams recently, but I do think, There's nowhere to go but up for Mike Williams. Hopefully that inconsistent track turns back to where he was to begin the year, which was a very, very positive difference maker.